Welcome back, everybody, to the Final How. And on this week's episode, we have on Geoff Nemnich from the Eastman's Predator Pro podcast and also The Last Stand. And Geoff also has launched his online coyote class. And I encourage everybody and anybody, whether you're a thermal hunter or a daytime hunter, if you're on the East Coast or West Coast, there's so much information packed in there for everybody of any skill level. It is definitely worth going over and checking out. You go to thecoyoteclass.com and go check it out. So without further ado, Geoff, how you doing?
Great, man. Glad to be on.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and out of your busy schedule to come and jump on here with me.
Coyote's got the day off today.
So season's winding down for you, correct?
Yep. I'm what you call a seasonal coyote hunter, that's for sure. So another probably week to 10 days and I'm cashing it in.
That's pretty much how I operate. I mean, I with my schedules the same way. I really don't start hitting them hard until November and then run through, which we have a season here in Indiana. Technically, it's from October 15th to March 15th.
Cool. Like all-time season, huh? Like not just a thermal season?
Right,
Really?
right.
Wow.
Yeah,
You don't hear very many states that have actual coyote seasons anymore.
there's you if you get written permission from the landowner or on private property, you can still hunt them outside the season dates, but it's a little different here. But
Yeah, that's good. I like seasons for coyotes.
yeah, it tends to wear on you after. I know it does me anyways. From freaking, from basically, December to March, I'm going 4 or 5 days a week, nonstop, trying to hunt them, during the day, then at night, and it. I'm ready for it to be over.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm same way. You know, 60, 70 days traveling. Yeah, I mean I love killing coyotes probably as much as anybody out there. So, this time of year, I've always been a big fan of the changing of the seasons, like looking forward to the next thing. And for me, now that's baseball. I look forward to that a lot nowadays, coaching baseball. So yeah, it's kind of turning the corner and I figure I've killed plenty of coyotes and got to see and do and hunt with some cool guys, and accomplished all that this season. It's time to do something a little different. And then come, June or July, like you start building up that anticipation of, man, coyote season's right around the corner. I love that anticipation. I feel like if I hunted coyotes a year round, I would lose that. I would lose that a little bit of that excitement, especially that comes from late summer when I'm getting pumped up ready for that first, hunt in October.
Right. So I guess kind of my first question for you is you've started getting into playing a little bit of the thermal game.
Yeah,
And
yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I was just kind of curious, what are some of the differences that you've noticed from going from a daytime hunter for all those years and then jumping into the thermal? Have you noticed much of a difference as far as like your just the coyote reaction, or I mean, obviously stand setups, I'm sure, or just kind of
Oh
if you
yeah,
could go into
yeah,
that.
yeah. Several things at least that I've noticed. And I guess just from a standpoint of time wise, I may day hunt coyotes 70 days a year. Like this year, I've night hunted twice. I've went out a couple more times for a couple hours. So like that puts in perspective. Like I don't spend a lot of time thermal hunting, but the differences that I do notice. One obviously is your stand selection, right? I mean that's huge. I think night hunting is so much easier to set up a stand because you have the cover of darkness, because you don't have to hide as well. I think that appeals to a lot of guys, right? It also opens up land access for you, like where I've killed coyotes at night where there's no way in a million years you could ever set up there and kill a coyote during the daytime. So it expands. I mean, obviously the areas where you can kill coyotes in the daytime are still there for you at night, but it opens up the amount of access that you probably have to make stands by night hunting. in some of those big, more wide open spots that there's just you just couldn't pull it off in the daytime. Um, Probably the biggest thing for me personally is the skill set of just shooting coyotes with a thermal scope. I mean, that for me, it's just like anything. The guys that are really, really good that kill a lot of coyotes with thermal are really, really good with their thermal scope. I mean, that's the scope they're shooting coyotes with all the time. It's no different than me shooting daytime, running coyotes, whatever it may be, right? It's what I do all the time, right? So that for me jumping, you know, from a 10 power day scope to a 2.5 power freaking night, thermal scope, it's just that's a little bit different. Standing up on a tripod is a different skill set than sitting down shooting off swaggers, you know. Um, Not that it's easier or harder, it's just a different skill set, So learning that for me from sound sequences and time on stand, really no difference. I do really the same thing. If anything, I actually probably sit there less at night just because you can see so far usually. You can see a lot better. If something's coming or not. It's not like when you're tighter in the cover, less visibility in the daytime. You just don't know if coyotes are coming a lot. So those stand times are usually a little bit longer for me. I mean, I'm talking a few minutes, not like considerable amount of time. Um, yeah, and just the lack of sleep probably for me is the biggest one, man. I get out there and it's like, to me, it's fun and it's weird in coyote hunting or just hunting in general. Everybody kind of has their own thing that really just gets them going, right? We're probably you and I and uh a lot of people listen to this podcast. It's coyotes. You've probably hunted a lot of different things, but out of everything you've hunted, coyotes is the thing that really just gets you going, right? And I think individually within the coyote world, there's guys that are just like, man, this thermal stuff, boy, I just love it, and uh, it affords me the opportunity to hunt coyotes more, which is a huge advantage to a lot of guys. Like you said, maybe yourself, I can run out 3, 4, 5 nights a week, put the kids to bed, run out for 4 or 5 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, be back home by midnight, get up and go to work the next day. I don't have to wait for the weekend, and things like that. And that's a huge, advantage for a lot of guys to just be able to get out there and hunt more. But
Yeah, I know
probably
that.
the biggest, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I know when I started coyote hunting 20 plus years ago, and it was always daytime. And when I transitioned to I hunt more thermal now, I know there was a huge learning curve in there. It seemed like just from getting in that mindset of daytime, especially around here. You got, like I say, you got so many houses and everything everywhere. And so to get in tight to the cover and figure out those transition areas and all of that for daytime, to where at night it's like, man, okay, you don't have to get
Yeah.
so
Throw a dart
deep
at a
in
board,
there
right?
on them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
to me, that's how kind of I talk to people about it. I say, day hunting to me is way more technical. With the skill set is revolves more around understanding your setups, where you're going to find coyotes, getting in tight, and then being able to kill coyotes in those type of setups. Where night hunting, it's more about the equipment. How good am I with getting comfortable with my thermal? Scanning, looking through a monocular thing and running my remote and then transitioning to the gun and making a shot. To me, success at night revolves way more around the equipment, and daytime success revolves way more around the tactics and skill set of understanding where the coyotes are going to be and getting in there and setting up and getting them killed.
Right. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of guys, it seems like around me, anyways, the popularity of coyote hunting is mainly thermal. I'd say three-fourths of the guys are thermal hunting versus day hunting, at least in my
Entry to
area.
barrier, right? I mean, it's all about entry to barrier, right? Entry to barrier to go out and kill a coyote in the thermal is there's probably nobody that would argue that it's not a lot easier to, if you just wanted to go kill a coyote, that was your main goal, or more coyotes, that at night hunting, that is the way to do it. And why wouldn't you, right? Everybody wants to kill more coyotes, right? So don't get wrapped up in, oh, day hunting's hard, whatever, man. Kill more coyotes, whatever you want. Everybody's going to have their own thing. But I totally understand why guys like the night hunting. And but for me, like I said, when you kill hundreds and hundreds and thousands of coyotes over, however many years with the day, I'm like, oh, I don't really need the night. thing to kill coyotes and to kill a bunch of them. So, and for me, I love watching coyotes, man. And for me, I, it feels like when I'm in a thermal, like I'm watching a video game. Like it does not seem realistic to me, like it's actually happening right now. Like when you see it in the daytime, it's like, oh man, look at that thing. It's coming in, hackles up, whatever, you can just see the coyote. And to me, I feel like in the moment almost. Thermal, it's like I'm not in the moment, like you're watching it. And it's not until I actually walk out there and turn my headlamp on, and be like, oh yeah, that really was a real coyote. To me, that's just this weird thing in my head that happens to me. And it's like when I go thermal hunting, if I'd come out thermal hunting in Indiana versus I thermal hunting here in Nebraska, it looks the same. It looks the same through a thermal. And to me, I absolutely love hunting new areas and just seeing the landscape and, um, so, but yeah, that's,
Yeah, I
that's for
agree
me the
with that.
differences.
It's definitely more of a rush during the day. I agree with that 100% because through the thermal, like you said, you're looking through a TV screen, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's playing a video game versus going out in real life. Essentially, it feels
Yeah.
like so. And I noticed that a lot of guys that have gotten into it that are trying the daytime game and are getting their butts whooped more. And it kind of goes back to, well, you can't just go stand up in the middle of the field and set the caller right in front of you during the day. They're gonna
It's a
see you.
different skill set. Yeah. I mean, if you will, I guarantee you, if you start off the very first coyote hunting you ever do, and you learn to coyote hunt as a thermal coyote hunter and start killing coyotes, you will struggle with the daytime game. And then what'll probably happen is you'll kill some coyotes in the thermal, you'll try it in the daytime, you won't have near the success, and then you'll just say, "Ah, hell with the daytime. I'm going to stick to the night hunting," and you'll never really learn or understand the daytime. Or vice versa, guys that I know that were predominantly daytime hunters and then transitioned over to night. I mean, you already got it figured out. It's just you're taking advantage of everything that the nighttime offers that you couldn't do in the daytime. So it's not a big transition for you.
Now, along the lines of equipment wise, is you started shooting that 22 arc now, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you notice with your 223 with a thermal that you were getting possibly more runners? Because in reason why I'm asking that is these newer thermals have come a long ways, or the more higher end ones, but it doesn't seem you can be as precise with a thermal as you are a daytime scope, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I agree.
So you had noticed that back when you were
Well,
running
I
your
don't necessarily know
thermal?
about runners. I mean, you know, I killed thousands of coyotes with the 223, not a ton of them with the thermal. But you're right. Daytime hunting, I shoot coyotes right in the point of the shoulder in the daytime. They don't go anywhere. Especially shooting. I was running that 53 grain VMAX out of that 223, hands down. Compare. Some guys don't quite understand ballistically what the difference between like shooting a 50 or a 55 grain VMAX or a ballistic tip versus that 53. It's a huge difference. I can guarantee it. In the terminal ballistics of what it does to coyotes when it hits them. And that's what keeps coyotes from running off, right? I mean, whether they run, 50 yards and pile up, or they run, 100 yards and pile up, so, or they keep running and they don't stop, kind of a deal. So, yeah, to me, it's all about precision, right? But that's what I thought felt like that 53 grain allowed me. If you hit a mid body, which seems like thermal, that's where you end up getting them. It's like you're kind of think you're on the shoulder, but the halo of the thermal image and stuff, it's not precise. So, yeah, I mean, if I was probably a night hunter, I don't know if I'd probably go with the 223 if I want to shoot an AR-15. I mean, obviously the bigger guns now, the better AR-15 platforms like a 22 arc, even that 6 arc would be better probably at night. Just for that simple fact is you're not going to be hitting coyotes probably exactly where you want. But I think it's important too to understand ballistics, especially terminal ballistics, of what certain bullets are doing to coyotes, because bigger is not always better on coyotes. And I think a lot of guys don't understand that. If you're shooting 180 plus grain bullets, especially up to the 100 grain bullets, those are made for like freaking deer, the big. and they punch through coyotes. So even if you hit a coyote in a bad spot, anytime a bullet exits out of a coyote, you're losing energy, and coyotes bleed out fast, right? So you want the bullet to stay inside of a coyote. If you keep the bullet inside of a coyote and you don't get an exit, I don't really care if you hit him in the guts, mid body, right through the ribs. That coyote's piling up, and he's not going to run very far because they bleed out so fast. But if you punch right through him with a big bullet and it doesn't create a very big wound channel through there, it doesn't matter. You're not going to find that coyote anyway. Maybe if you hit him in the leg, you start that bigger bullet hits bone, it does do a little more destruction to the coyote. But I'm talking about hitting coyotes in the body. Really try to find you a bullet that shoots great in your gun that's going to stay in the coyote. The bullet stays in the coyote, man. It is mass damage inside of them, and they bleed out crazy fast.
Yeah, and that's which I shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor now. I run the 95 grain VMAX.
Yeah.
For my nighttime rig because I'd shot a 22 250 since I started hunting coyotes basically with a rifle. Never, hardly. It's either I missed them or I put them down.
Yeah.
Then when I transitioned into thermal, it was like I don't know 2 or 3 out of every 10 I'd shoot. They'd sit there and you'd watch them do that death spin for 2 or 3 times, and like a rocket, they were out of there.
You're probably getting a splash probably on shooting a 22 to 50.
And I was running a 55 grain VMAX. And
yeah.
So, I transitioned, went up caliber, and didn't really have that problem when I started running that 95 grain VMAX. And then this year, I kind of went on I wanted to self-film myself kill a coyote with a shotgun. I wanted to so bad. I shot hundreds with a shotgun growing up as a kid, but to self-film one with a shotgun, I have learned real quick, becoming a whole new world. But, and I carry my rifle too. I'd take that 250 back out and I'm just dropping them. And I think that, to me, what I'm getting after is it feels like there is that more of difference in the shot placement using that caliber versus that 6.5, but I don't know. That's why I was asking if you've noticed a difference.
It definitely makes a difference. I think for sure. If you're not able to precisely hit coyotes where you want all the time, I mean, I think that's like the general rule of thumb. If you talk to an outfitter or anybody else, they're like, hey, bring the biggest gun you can because they know the average guy is not that great of a shot. And the bigger the gun, the general theory is you have a little more room for error, right? If you don't hit them just perfect. And the same is generally true with coyotes too, I think, for the most part. But yeah, if I was going to set up a specific gun for thermal, I have the exact same gun. And when I got into thermal, I knew I wasn't going to do it a lot. So I'm like, you know what? I want to shoot the exact same gun as I shoot in the daytime, same trigger, same stock, same everything. It's just going to have thermal scope on it. So my day scope, just to keep it that much more comfortable for myself, with what I know. So I was shooting a 223. Now I both my guns are 22 arcs. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be afraid to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to have a special thermal gun set up, and maybe I'm shooting a 223 for my day gun. Yeah, let's maybe up it a little bit. Maybe I want to get me a new 22 Creedmoor, 6 arc, even a 6.5 Creedmoor, 6 Creedmoor bolt gun, whatever, something that's shooting a little bit bigger bullet, same speeds. You're just hitting them with more energy, right? More power. And then yeah, maybe you aren't going to see the runners that you normally would.
And I haven't tried that Hornady came out. What's that? ELDT?
ELDVT. Yep.
Now
it's nasty.
Is it okay?
It's nasty. I mean, yeah, it is. It is a nasty bullet. I mean, I've shot now quite a few coyotes. I shot it all season. Shot my wolf with it out of my 6 Creedmoor. That was the ELDVT. It was 80 grade. Rick's been shooting them out of his. He hand loaded some of those 62 grain ELDVTs in his 22 Creedmoor. Yeah, they are just technologically advanced bullet. I mean, it's the newest best thing. And I know there's a lot of new stuff comes out, right? And they're all trying to come up with something new. But I'm telling you, from what I've seen, this bullet is nasty. And I'm not talking about blowing like massive holes in coyotes. But the fragmentation and wound channels inside of coyotes is unreal. That 53 grain VMAX out of 220, and I haven't shot everything, right? I haven't shot 222 250s. I've seen coyotes get shot with all that stuff, but I personally haven't shot it. Um, I mean, I'm really comparing it to a 53 grain VMAX out of a 223. This 62 grain ELD VT out of a 22 arc is nasty. What I mean by that is, for example, we were actually filming down in New Mexico, and I shot a coyote. I talked about it on one of the Last Stand episodes. I shoot a coyote like 70 yards, right in the point of the shoulder. Boom, drops him. Walk up, and there's one little drop of blood there's a little bit of blood on the entry hole, just in the fur, no hole, just a little bit of blood. Flip him over. There's a little bit of blood coming out of a very, very small hole, just enough so you have blood on the fur right on the opposite of that shoulder. And then right on the very top of the coyote's back, out of the pay strip, there's a little hole and blood coming out of his spine. Like, right. I had never seen a bullet fragment like that, right? I mean, it blew up and a piece of the bullet went straight up 90, right out the top of the coyote's back. Another piece of the bullet went straight out back shoulder. Another coyote, I hit it 350 yards early in the season. Same thing, hit him square in the shoulder, broadside, dropped him, walked up, little drop of blood on the front shoulder, a little drop of blood on the backside shoulder. He actually had a drop of blood coming out of where his neck meets his front side cheek, and he was bleeding out of his backside ear hole.
That thing grenades when it hits him.
That thing just, I mean, it fragmented from the shoulder and went up his neck into his head. That's the only way they bleed out of their ears. You got to get him in the head. And this is unreal. I've never seen that before. Granted, I've hit some coyotes and it's blown. It's not unusual if you do rib a coyote, it might blow a golf ball size hole out the backside, but those coyotes ain't going anywhere. But every coyote that I hit square in the shoulder, that's what I see is no holes, just or very minor hole. But I mean, I haven't skinned any of these. I probably should. Well, you might know I don't skin coyotes, but I should have a buddy of mine skin a coyote just that we could like do an autopsy because I mean it's devastating. I mean, when I shot the wolf at 425 yards. I hit him with an 80 grain ELVT, and I hit him right in the shoulder. The bullet kind of fragmented, almost ricocheted, almost like a 45 back through his backside rib cage. And I mean, he had a trauma plate. I mean, his entire rib cage and his shoulder had that, if you've ever skinned a deer where there's that trauma and that bruising. I mean, it was bigger than a football on his backside, and that bullet had broke into 2 or 3 different fragments. The lead core of the bullet was actually up against his hide on the backside. I actually got that. 2 or 3 other pieces of that bullet actually had fragmented out. I mean, he was totally destroyed. And I've shot some coyotes with that same bullet, and it does the same thing. It's violent, man. It's violent.
I'm gonna have to check those out.
And they're so good. I mean, the technology in these bullets, it's the ballistic coefficient is unreal for that size of bullet. With the technology in this bullet, it's actually like that 62 grain ELDVT is on the frame of a 75 grain bullet. So if you took a 75 grain ELDM or whatever and put it next to a 70 or a 62 grain ELVT, they're almost identical in size, but that front third of that ELDVT is pretty much hollow. So it's able to get less weight. You still get the ballistic coefficient and all the properties of a bigger, longer bullet, but you also get the added advantages to having a lighter weight bullet as well. With increased velocities and things like that. So yeah, the technology behind it's pretty crazy. Yeah, if you have not checked out these bullets, they're something.
Yeah, I'm kind of the type I get stuck in my old, I find what works and you get stuck in your old ways, but I always like something new coming along though.
I was the same way, man. Trust me. Last summer, dude, and I've killed as many coyotes as I had with the 223 and those guns I had. I mean, they was shooting sub quarter-inch groups. I mean, I had so much confidence in those guns, and I tossed this around for a long time, man. Do I want to? And trust me, I was the same boat. I'm like, oh my god, I really want to switch? Like, and I just said, you know what? In the AR-15 platform, it just makes too much sense not to switch. My muzzle velocity. I actually gained 100 feet per second, which I didn't want to gain a lot because of all my running leads and all that kind of stuff is just ingrained in my mind. So I didn't want to change that. So yeah, all my running leads have still been just freaking spot on. but I gained 100 feet per second. You know, I gained a little bit heavier bullet, and then I gained a bullet that's just, that much more technologically advanced as far as, terminal ballistics goes. So, the wind drift is half. That was always a challenge, shooting a 223 out to 3, 4, 500 yards when you get coyotes that hang up or whatever. I mean, wind drift's crazy, it would be wind. All of a sudden my bullet blows like 3 foot and you're like, damn, how did I even do that? Wind drift's half on this. So, you know, just yesterday I had a coyote school, shot a coyote at 350 yards. It was kind of a crosswind, 15 mile. I put it right on the ass cheek of the coyote and it drifted over about 8 inches, boom, right in the shoulder. My 223, hell, I'd had to hold it a foot off the ass of the coyote, which is hard to do when you're like thinking about it. So yeah, it's been a great switch.
I think that's what a lot of guys don't ever think about that are especially new to it or getting into it of, shooting out there 400 yards, 300 yards. Yeah, really. Yeah. Starting at 300 on that wind drift you get with these lighter, which
Yeah.
really any round you will, but especially those
Yep.
lighter grain bullets, how
Yep.
much drift you're actually getting out of those.
Yeah, it's amazing. I always looked at the chart back when I shot a 223 just to keep because a lot of times in coyote hunting you don't have time to really. It's not like big game hunting where you have time to break out a chart and really think about it. It's like that coyote might stand there for 5 seconds, and he's gone. He's going to be moving. So you have to kind of know. But I always had a number in my head with shooting a 223 at 200 yards with a 20-mile-an-hour straight crosswind, which is not a lot. That's 10 inches of drift. And I always had that in the back of my mind, like, okay, if something happens fast, I know at 200 yards, 20 mile an hour, I got to hold 10 inches, on straight crosswind. It's a lot of drift. I mean, that just keeps getting more and more as you get out there. So yeah, it's amazing how wind's the hardest thing to regulate when it comes to shooting long ways.
Well, I think that's a huge advantage too of, you know, primarily, Western coyote hunting. It always seems like it's always wind, it's 20
Yeah.
mile an hour
Yeah.
winds out there and you guys are like, oh, it's not windy today.
Yeah.
Around
Norm,
here,
right?
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
substantial wind. So, but
Yeah.
learning that and understanding that, and then guys around here that aren't used to that, we didn't grow up shooting like that. Like
Yep.
like I said, when I started shooting, it was shotgun coyotes because
Oh yeah.
everything's in the timber was thicker. Didn't really hunt them with rifles, and until basically the progression of thermals, and then it was like a whole new world. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
effective. I could hunt them all day for a week straight, and you might kill 10 if you're lucky. When we started hunting with thermals 5, 6 years ago, it was nothing to get 10 a night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a lot more effective, but then started learning the rifle, the rounds, and then it's like, okay, this is a whole different ball game.
Oh heck yeah.
Right. And so I kind of want to talk to you too about your coyote school your online
Yeah.
school you
Yeah.
just started,
Yep.
which I think is pretty interesting, pretty neat. And relatively, in my opinion, if I remember, it's like, it's $400 for the initial membership, correct?
Yeah. For the first year. Yep.
And I think that's a huge thing that guys from any skill set or not just skill set, but Eastern nighttime hunters, because it's all basically relatively kind of the same principle. But $400 is a lot cheaper to learn how to hunt these things than guys think they can buy an $800 brand new e-collar and it's going to change it. Well, so if you
Well, yeah.
would,
How many tanks of gas are you going to burn to go figure out just a very few things in coyote hunting, right? It takes a long time to learn coyote hunting. Right? You have to do it a lot. You have to call in a lot of coyotes. You to actually start figuring things out, right? I mean, look at me. I mean, I'm 25 years deep into it. I mean, who knows how many thousands of dollars I've spent in gas and I mean, tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of my time, to kind of figure things out the way I have and travel and force myself into new areas and you know just everything I've done kind of all accumulated to this. But yeah, I personally think it's a steal, but I mean, the fact of what you're getting, Yeah, I think it's one of those things when I started out doing in-person schools, probably, 12 or 13 years ago. That's kind of what I always felt like was a niche out there because I knew at that point how long I'd been hunting coyotes up to that point 12 years ago and how long it took me to kind of figure this stuff out. Well, I'm fortunate, I've been hunting coyotes for 50, 60, 70 days a winter for 20 years. I mean, I own a lawn care business, so I've had the winters off. Most guys, there's no way 99% of guys that want to hunt coyotes, there's just no possible way you can spend that much time hunting. So it's going to be hard for you to kind of figure out a lot of stuff. It's going to take you a long time, right? So yeah, my idea was, you know what? I have the advantage of doing this, so why not share that with guys, right? I'm always like, man, Mother Nature, coyotes are going to produce plenty of coyotes for us to all shoot next year. If we're all killers, man, and we're all piling up coyotes left and right, trust me, we ain't going to eradicate them. There'll be just as many next year for us to all shoot. So why not? Why not share the information? Um, and I come from a family of teachers. I love to coach. I've always just kind of felt like I had a natural knack of talking about it and putting it out there, and I guess teaching it in a way that everybody could maybe understand it and relate to it. Um, and that's really what we do. That's what I've done in my in-person schools. And then obviously the demand for the in-person schools is crazy. I mean, those in-person spots, for the last 5 or 6 years book up within about an hour and a half or 2 hours from me releasing the dates. So guys weren't able to get out to those. So I thought, you know what, with technology and the way the world's working now, there's a lot of online court stuff, not just in hunting, but anything you want to learn, right? You can get on the internet and figure out there's a master class or something for it, right? So I said, here we go. Here's our opportunity to put this out there, and guys can, for pennies on the dollar, really, I think, get this mass amount of knowledge thrown at them and kind of just, shorten up their learning curve and start, having success way sooner than maybe what it would have taken you on your own.
Yeah, because I mean, how often can you? I know, like in most people's cases, especially more Midwestern guys, coyote hunting is such a new thing around here to where, it seems like more out west, that's a generational hunt,
Oh,
type of
100%.
hunting. You start getting more Illinois through Indiana and Ohio, Kentucky, it wasn't that popular. Now it's huge. So the learning curve is crazy. And I know when I get asked a lot, it's like, well, kind of like what you were saying. I set myself up in life to where I basically hunt them and I hunt everything all winter, but it was hours upon hours upon hours to even come close to figuring them out. And you don't even really
Oh
figure them
yeah.
out. But that just seems so cheap to me. $400 to get that kind of lesson and have it at your hands 24/7.
24/7, phone, laptop, whatever you want. You made a good point about generational. I mean, to me, I didn't learn coyote hunting from anybody. I learned it on my own. My dad took me hunting, but I actually took my dad coyote hunting for the first time after I kind of started doing it a little bit and had killed a few coyotes. And I was like, hey, you got to come check this out. Granted, I've hunted with guys over the years that at the time had, a lot of guys throw this out there. Oh, I've been hunting coyotes for 30 years. Okay, cool. But how many times a year do you actually hunt coyotes in those 30 years, right? Oh, I go out 4 or 5 times a year. So you've really hunted coyotes 150 times over 130 or over 30 years, right? Well, I hunted coyotes that many times in 2 years. So it's not, so I don't look a lot at that. So I've hunted coyotes with a lot of guys over the years that had hunted coyotes longer than I have, but maybe hadn't hunted as much, as I have. So, and I would see how they did things and I would be like, and I've always just looked at things a little bit different than the norm that you see out there because people up to now basically learn coyote hunting several ways. Either A, you go out and do it all on your own and you figure it out yourself, which is not a lot of guys. B, you learn from somebody else. Somebody else takes you out, you start going with them. Well, guess what? That guy that you're learning from, he might have learned it from somebody else, right? And that guy said, hey, well, why do you do this? Well, I do it. I don't know. I just do it this way. So then that coyote hunter, guess the way he does it. is the way that his buddy told him to do it. And then you go out with this guy and you start doing it that way. Well, why is the only reason you're doing that? You've never really put any thought into why you're doing what you're doing. You're only doing it because your buddy told you that's the way you have to do it, right? So before you know it, you have this, and it might not even be the right way or the best way. It just keeps getting passed down from hunter to hunter to hunter. And before you know it, it's kind of the gospel. Like, oh, this is the way you need it. No different than like reading magazine articles, right? From predator hunting. There's not coyote killers writing predator, magazine articles. It's magazine writers writing magazine articles, right? And they're just regurgitating what somebody told them. So it's very generic. It's kind of the same old crap you read over and over. Not really going to give anybody anything special to go off of. So that's out there, right? So guys are trying to pick that up. And then, like you said, out in the East, there's not a lot of coyote hunters. So guys are like, they don't even have anybody to even go with. And if they do, it's a guy that maybe started hunting last year. So they have maybe a year under their belt more than you do. So they don't really even know what they're doing. And you're kind of like, well, that guy at least knows more than I. So I'm going to start doing it the way he's doing it. And it might not be even close to the way it needs to be done. And then you throw YouTube in the mix, right? That's obviously a big platform nowadays. Guys love watching coyote videos on there. But there's only so much, a majority of coyote videos out there don't teach you very much. They don't talk about it. They show you the kill shots, they show you the hunt, but they don't talk about a lot of the other things. They may tell you, oh, I use this sound. Well, if you hunt coyotes enough, you know that particular sound isn't a big piece of the equation, right? There's way more behind the scenes that goes into that. But they don't talk about that, right? I mean, that was one thing we've always tried to do on The Last Stand is, and I get blasted all the time for talking so much, but you can't teach if you don't talk, right? I mean, so that's the tough part about YouTube is trying to find that fine line between how much do we talk and teach versus how much is it entertainment, right? So I can't do it all. Um, so that's where this class came in. I said, you know what? This is a class. You're paying money to specifically hear me talk about coyote hunting and teach coyote hunting. So I can talk as much as I want, spill my guts about all this stuff, talk about concepts and theories and, why are we doing what we're doing, so that whether you live in Indiana, Nevada, Texas, North Dakota, Michigan, it doesn't matter, right? The concepts are the same. It's just understanding those concepts and being able to mold it to the biggest change is terrain from place to place and land access, right? Those are the two biggest things. The coyotes are not different. The coyotes still use the cover the same in Indiana as they use cover in Nebraska. The cover's just different, you know. The how I approach land access and how I hunt a property is the same in Nebraska versus how I'd hunt in Indiana wherever I go. It's just the land access is smaller. It's a little bit different, right? Every place has its challenges. Every place has its advantages. And I think when you truly understand the concepts, you put it to use wherever you go, and you're going to kill coyotes.
Well, I think that's an important thing that I always try to tell guys is, I'm all about, I will watch videos from guys that I, just don't despise of, but
yeah,
but at the same time, there might be something in there you see them do to where it's like, I might be able to use that. You necessarily don't have to do it exactly how they're doing it in Arizona, in Indiana, but there might be some information in there you can take, make it your own, and learn from it when you go out and make your stands.
Yeah,
that's to me.
Well, there's lots of ways you can kill coyotes, man. And when I talk about this, I'm like, you're wanting to learn the way I do it, right? Am I saying this is the best way or the only way? No, not at all. This is the best way that I found me personally, because that's why I do it that way, right? Even the way I do things is I'm always constantly looking at other ways to be more efficient. Is this really the best way? You know, is there a better way? Because you probably know me. My goal is to kill a pile of coyotes every time I go out. It's not the reality of it, but my goal is okay. Yeah, this one time this year we killed this many coyotes, but what if I'd have done something just a little bit different that day? Could we have killed a few more? Or the day that we only, we pound them out all day long and it's just we kill two coyotes all day long. I mean, could we have done something a little bit different that we could have got three coyotes or four coyotes, So I'm always looking for that. So yeah, lots of ways to do it. And it's, in your style of hunting and how you do it might not might not fall in line exactly the way I do it, but the idea is that, okay, take the concepts and mold it to you. You might not want to hunt as a lot of it's just how hard you hunt. Honestly, some of it's like guys like, oh man, I don't want to crank out 18 stands tomorrow in a day. That's a lot of work. To me, it's not work, but that's the way you're going to kill a lot of coyotes. Well, that's okay. If you're going to make 4 stands tomorrow morning, okay, you can still use those same concepts, just apply it to your 4 stands you're going to make tomorrow morning or tomorrow night. I'm just doing it at a larger scale, doing it all day long from sun up to sundown. So
that's a huge deal in today's world is, how hard somebody's going to put into it. Everybody just wants that instant,
oh yeah,
that this sound's going to work. And nothing
yeah. If I
gets
play
under
the
my
secret sound, if I play the secret sound, this should happen all the time. I mean, that's what I tell people. Unfortunately, there's no 100%. And anybody that tells you that is, you see guys on Facebook or whatever, social media, and I'm like, they're just full of shit. They're just saying stuff to get people riled up. There's nothing that happens 100% of the time. And I think a lot of guys new to coyote hunting feel like there is something like that. And they see guys that are killing lots of coyotes and they almost feel like, well, I can do that. They must have some secret sound or some secret blah, blah, blah. They probably have a pretty good location. Obviously, it's not getting hammered and, the coyotes aren't getting killed out of there every weekend and kind of stuff like that. But they're probably just efficient at what they do. They're good shots. They understand where the coyotes are going to be. And then they cover ground. I mean, that's the only way you're going to kill a lot of coyotes is to cover a lot of ground. So
yeah, my kind of theory on that's always been if I see somebody post a sound on Facebook, like, I don't know, shelter belt's working great. I killed these 3 on it. And I know that person's relatively around my area or where I'm hunting. I won't play because I know there's going to be 500 other dudes that are running right out that night, and they're all going to be screaming shelter belt. So I tend to play
I
a
don't get
different
wrapped
sound.
up. I don't get wrapped up on the sounds. I mean, even from rabbits to rabbits, I personally don't think there's big difference. Because you could go out one weekend, and it'd be fun to do sometimes, make like a Facebook post with like a poll, and say, okay, hey, if you went out and killed coyotes this weekend, what sound was working? And you pulled 100 guys from across the country. I mean, there'd be 20 different rabbit sounds that guys were killing them with. There'd be 20 different pup distress sounds that guys killed them with. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be like, well, I couldn't call in anything. And there would be 5 guys that kill coyotes and they all use the same exact sound, right? It would never lay out that way, right? So yeah, I don't get too wrapped up in a bunch of that, but
I never have. I've, growing up watching, I kind of got into it, I guess you could say, or learned about it, back in the early 2000s from the DVDs and,
oh yeah, yep.
And you watch and then it involves and you're like, well, okay, this guy here, only thing he's going to do is play a rabbit distress. That's it. Well, you watch videos and see pictures of him with them piled in the back of his truck. And then you see this other guy, oh, I'm only run vocals. I'm not going to run any distress. And he piles them up. So it's like, well, nobody's right or nobody's wrong. It's just, that's what they were doing and it was working. That's their style.
Yeah. Tells you how important location is, right?
Exactly. And it's
number one.
it's huge. It really is. And the access, that's where I think in my area, I don't kill near the coyotes as I did 3 years ago. I don't see near the coyotes I did. They are a lot. I don't know if I haven't put my thumb on it. I don't think you ever will, but to me, something has changed because 5 years ago with the thermal at night, those things would run you over. They would just flat run you over. And now, especially this year, I have noticed more than any other year. I have only had 2 or 3 out of, I don't know, 100, 150, however many coyotes that actually charged in towards the call. The rest of them have just been kind of doing that downwind skirt as far out as they could. So I wondered, what's changed besides the pressure? Is that what it is? I don't know.
thermals changed the game a lot, right? I mean, coyotes are seeing pressure now that they never have before, and it's year-round pressure. I talk about, early on, we talked about us being seasonal coyote hunters. That's the way 99% of the hunters were probably up until the last 10 years, probably, with the popularity of thermal. Now coyotes are seeing pressure year round. Um, I think a big part of it is there's only so many coyotes out there, man, right? And I think this is the huge thing that people underestimate is we get one crop of coyotes a year. All right, it's in April. All right, in most places it might be a little later where you live, but we get one crop. It's Coyotes aren't having multiple litters like hogs and this and that. So there's one crop of coyotes in your region a year. Okay. From that point on, it is nothing but less coyotes every day. Every day. Less coyotes today than there was yesterday because yesterday coyotes died off for whatever reason. Disease, getting shot off, getting hit by cars. And that goes on for 365 days. By the time you get to January, February, coyotes have been dying off for 9 months. Think about it, right? And obviously, once you get to September, October, November, coyotes are dying off at a fast rate because deer hunters don't pass them up. Deer hunter in their stand with their bow nowadays is going to stick a freaking coyote more than likely. Coyotes getting hit by cars. I mean, thermal hunters starting. So by the time you get to January, February, there was probably half, or maybe less, the coyotes that there were even just probably at the start of the fall in most places, and maybe even less than that. And it could get to the point too where as easy it is sometimes to kill coyotes, especially just like driving around at night. A lot of coyotes get shot at night driving around, and it's a fact, right? Not everybody's out there hauling. I mean, drive into the field, coyote stand there, you boom, you pop it. They're not running off like they do in the daytime, right? So yeah, I mean, I just think you get just it's just a lot less coyotes, man, and obviously it's just if there's a lot less coyotes, it's gonna be harder to hunt them because there's just the ones that are left potentially could be pressured. I don't like to use the word educated. I use the word pressured because pressure comes in a lot of other forms other than just guys out there shooting, blowing a call and playing a call and things like that. But um, yeah, to me, that's it, man. I think in your area, you could actually maybe have seen a decline in the coyote numbers. I mean, you got to kill off 70% of a coyote population to see a decline the following year. Are we efficient enough now with thermals that we're getting 70-80% of the coyotes killed off in an area? Maybe so in some spots. So you can expect, well, maybe next year there's not going to be quite, if there are only 2 out of 10 coyotes left, those two might not be able to replace the other 8. They might get to 7 or 8 next year, not 10. So yeah, to me, that's the big part of it. It's just the coyote numbers are just dropping all the time, and guys think it should just be an unlimited supply of coyotes out there all the time, and it's just not that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely
Because
think
how many
that,
more guys are out, right? Take your example. 5 years ago, if you had to throw a rough number at it, and where you live in Indiana, how many guys have probably started thermal hunting that didn't ever hunt coyotes in the last 5 years? 1,000?
100. I mean, I say almost every deer hunter I know has got a thermal now to where,
Yeah.
I mean,
So let's just say you have 500. Just to say you have 500 more guys in your couple counties now that are out trying to shoot coyotes. Even most of them aren't very good. Most of them aren't very efficient at what they do, but they're still going to kill some coyotes with thermal, right? So even if 500 guys now are out there now, even if they're only killing one coyote a piece, you know, that's still 500 less coyotes that are getting killed off a year now that weren't. You know, carrying capacity is carrying capacity. I believe, like 5 years ago, your land was what it was, right? You had the ag, you had the timber, it carried X amount of coyotes, right? Probably nothing has happened in the last 5 years to make it where you had an explosion of coyotes. Like I would say your general coyote population has stayed the same, right?
right.
But now you take that same population where you were one of a few, right? It's no different than like Les Johnson way back in the day. He was an awesome coyote hunter, knew what he was doing way before a lot of guys. He was running around and nobody was doing anything. He had access to a lot of great stuff and nobody was doing it, right? Well, nowadays you take that same scenario and everybody's out there doing it. It's a little bit more of a challenge to find those spots. But you take your couple counties and you say, okay, yeah, we had this amount of coyotes. We still have this amount of coyotes, but now I got 500 extra guys that are killing off 500 more coyotes now than what they ever did. There you go. That's why it gets tough, right?
Right. And that's kind of what I've always believed and felt. And then I've definitely been blasted before for saying that, like, oh, you can't hurt the numbers. You can't. It's like, I'm not saying they're going to go extinct by any means. They, I think one of the sayings I've heard before when I was younger was there's going to be cockroaches and coyotes left if the nuclear bomb ever dropped. Like,
Oh yeah.
I do believe that, but I also do believe that you can definitely put your thumb on them. You can keep the grass mowed, as they say, and keep the numbers down. And
Oh, 100%. Damn right you can.
yeah, I mean, like I said, even 3 years ago with the thermal game in my area, I knew of two or three guys that hunted with thermal before thermal. And when it was just, there was one or two of us that hunted during the day, and we didn't even hunt that much during the day, but it was, I would say, was consistent. And now it's crazy. You can't open up Facebook anymore this time of year, or especially in these January. Once deer season goes out and there's no more deer hunters or anything like that, everybody's transitioned into coyote hunting now. Oh, you see, for about 3 weeks, you'll see hundreds of guys with 5, 6, 8, 10 coyotes in the back of their truck. Then all of a sudden, everybody peters out. And I think it's because, you've done killed off the majority.
You went to your spots and you killed them off, right? And then they go back the next weekend and they go to their spots again and they might kill one or two, and then they go back to their spots the weekend after and then they don't see anything, and then they go back once again and they're like, well, what sounds do I need? They ain't coming into the call anymore. Well, for the most part, you probably thinned them out. You at least thinned the callable coyotes out, right? I mean, I think that's a big part of it too, is not every coyote's callable right from the get-go. And I think a lot of guys think that every coyote should just come running right in, and not even just the pressured coyotes. I think just in general. So yeah, I mean, there's only so many coyotes out there, man. I tell people this too when they start talking about, oh, my areas get hammered. I said, well, let's take a look at it, right? I think that's just a scapegoat comment that gets thrown out there personally, right? Like, oh, my hunt, you got to get, I don't have the land access. Everywhere I go, it's just hammered, right? Well, how far do you go? How far are you going, man? I live in the most rural part of Nebraska that you can live in, and it's nothing for me to drive 2 to 3 hours one way to hunt and drive home, right? So you have to expand your search. You just take a state like Indiana. How many square miles are there in Indiana? Any idea?
Yeah, I have no
Million? I don't know. Million?
Yeah.
I don't know. A million, right? Let's just say there's 1 million square miles in Indiana. I don't know. I'm gonna Google that real quick here. Let's just find out. How many square miles are in Indiana? All right, 36,000 square miles in Indiana. Okay. So 36,000 sections. Not all that's obviously, some of that's city and towns and blah, 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 whatever, right? So not if it's all 100, but let's just say it's not. Let's just say there's 36,000 square miles. How many coyote hunters are there in Indiana that are actually hunting more than once a month or at all, right? I mean, 36,000?
No.
No? 5,000? I mean,
there could be. I mean, I guess nowadays, consistently, I mean, probably there's, I don't know.
I bet you there's less than 5,000 guys that hunt coyotes in Indiana. Probably even way less than that. But, so you take those 5,000 guys, are they covering every square inch of 36,000 square miles of country? I mean, I don't know. Some areas get heavily, I would say if and we'll never be able to probably put a number on this, but you take a big percentage of those hunters are probably covering a small percentage of that area, meaning a lot of the guys are hunting all in the same spots, but there's some spots that are seeing way less pressure just because of the fact that they're maybe away from the population centers or wherever it may be, right? So see, I think if you do your homework and you're able to expand out, and it's easy to get caught up and just going to the same spots over and over because you're familiar with it, right? Gaining land access is one of the toughest things to do for guys. But I still feel like there's places to find no matter where you live where you can stay productive. Does it mean you're going to go kill 10 coyotes a night? No, but I'm saying stay productive where you're consistently still killing coyotes to some extent throughout the entire season. It just might take a little more work than it used to nowadays, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, I know for an example, earlier this year, there was it's about an hour east of me, an area that we've called for years and was always kind of like our bread and butter spot, I guess you can say, A-list spots to where
Yeah.
if we were hunting in some kind of, tournament or something, we knew we could go into this area and we were going to put numbers up. And when we went over there twice this year. First time we went over there and it was dead. And it's like, what the hell, man? I've never drove over here and not at least heard them. Went back over about 3 weeks later, and I think we killed maybe 2 all night over there. And then come to find out, well, a friend of a friend got talking to some guys, and it's like, oh man, so and so's over here, and they got a thermal, and they got a thermal, and they've got one. It's like, okay, this explains. I kept thinking, man, something's happening in this area because it used to be dynamite. Like nobody hunted over there that we thought of. And then all of a sudden, I guess with the popularity and yeah, because every farmer's got a grandson or a nephew
Oh
that
yeah, it's everywhere, man. I run into that here in Nebraska.
right,
It's like, yeah,
to where it's like, oh well, I decided, and I've lost so much. I used to have spots. I mean, just hundreds of stands, and now that's dwindled down just because of that.
yep.
And that's fine. I mean, I love it because I love it. People are going out and doing it because I mean, honestly, when I coyote hunt, it started off with just to knock the numbers down, for the deer and the turkey and all of that. And then it was like, I really love doing this. And the bug bit me and I just got ate up with it.
Yeah.
So I love seeing that. But at the same time, it kind of turn back to that is when you see guys that just start getting into it and they start getting their butts handed to them. It's like, well, it's not necessarily, I guess I don't know how to say this, but you go out and you might kill 1 or 2. And then when you actually got to start hunting them and using
It's not as
woodsmanship
easy as it was at
skills,
some point. Yeah.
right. And I kind of hate to see that for this. I mean, I hate calling it a sport, but I mean, that's just what it is. But, I hate to see that because, you get discouraged because you got full of a bunch of bad information and somebody told you to play this one specific sound and it's not happening. Well, how was your access? How was the wind? And, there's all of this goes into play. And yeah.
Well, I think this even I think you're always going to have a constant group of people that are coming and going in the predator world. Guys that pick it up, go all in, and then realize they're not having the success, even thermal hunting, not having the success that they thought they should be having. They don't want to put the time in that it's going to take. And so they kind of they come and go, right? Then I think you're always going to have a new group of people coming into the sport. I think you have just as many leaving it, to a certain extent in some places. But, landowner relationships are becoming more important than any ever before, I think, just because of that fact that, when you start especially in the Midwest where I'm at, where you're dealing with lots of private ground, right? It's not like out west where you're dealing with public land, but having those relationships with those landowners, and not so much that you're the only one that hunts it, because in a lot of stuff where you guys are at, it doesn't, like you said, you maybe have permission on this 80 acres, and yeah, you may be the only one that calls coyote on it, but the coyotes aren't staying right on the 80 acres. They're traveling all around through that whole section, maybe multiple sections. So anybody out there, and then obviously nowadays with thermal, lots of coyotes are getting shot from the road. That's happening, right? So I mean, just guys driving around, man, 2 in the morning and whacking coyotes from the county road. I mean, that's the realization of it that is happening. So coyotes are getting shot off that maybe wouldn't have before, but at least if nothing else, you can develop those relationships with those landowners, and you can get that intel, right? You can start talking to them and saying, okay, has somebody been hunting out here? Do you let other guys hunt? And then whether or not do you want to waste the time to go hunt that. Maybe I need to start finding more access. If I have all this time to go hunt coyotes, but all my places suck, I should probably use that time to go line up more access than hunt coyotes right now. That's just the way it is, right? And a lot of guys don't do that. They just keep going back to same old, same old, same old, thinking they're going to get different results, and because it's easy, right? So I think that it's just one of those things. I think as more guys do it, you really just have to go above and beyond. You're gonna have to outwork them. You're gonna have to outwork everybody out there, and there'll be coyotes for you to kill. You're just gonna have to outwork everybody.
Yeah, finding them's or not finding
Yep.
the coyote. It's just getting out and doing it.
Yep.
I've never had to put in the amount of that kind of legwork that I ever had before. It used to be so easy. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a farmer around that you weren't like, hey man, can I call coyotes? Everyone had the same thing. Kill them all, kill them all, kill them
Yeah.
all.
Come on. Yeah.
Now you go ask, and heck, there's guys leasing ground around here to coyote hunt.
Changing game, man. Changing game.
I mean, it's crazy the popularity of it, and I just like I said, I just hate it because then they go out and they might they might do really good for the first month or so, and then all of a sudden they just start. It's not easy for them anymore. You just I can't just go drive and sit on top of this hill like.
Yeah. Yeah. I talk about that in the class a lot too, when it comes to land access and putting together a plan. You have to have a realistic expectation that early fall is going to be the best coyote hunting out there. Why? Because that's your highest percentage of callable coyotes you're going to have all year long. Right? All the pups are now dispersing. They're all callable now. Pressure has been fairly minimal in most places up to now. It's going to be good. Everybody can go out and kill coyotes in early fall. But what you don't want to see is just a huge drop off, like from killing coyotes to not killing coyotes at all for 2 months. And I think that happens to a lot of guys, and a lot of that has to do with putting together a plan on your land access and how you're hunting it and how you're just understanding each access piece has a little bit different dynamic to it and how you can lay out a plan to kind of, consistently with some drop off, right? You're going to drop off in numbers, but still, let's be able to still kill a coyote or two every time we go out, kind of a deal, as opposed to not killing anything for the last 8 times that we've been out in January and February.
Yeah, and that's to touch on your class again. That's why when anybody asks me, I've been asked by a handful of people, about like, man, I've seen this class, but do you think that's
Do you think it's
Western,
worth it?
yeah, there's a Western
It's
style
Western.
hunters. Yeah, they're daytime Western hunters. I'm like, well, but there's still so much in there that you can pick up on that a lot of that stuff does intertwine. Like in to just have to go with somebody, because the way I look at it is how many people have the opportunity to go with somebody with, you know, hundreds of days in the field every year and with all that experience. Not very many people do. Like you were saying earlier, most of it is, well, I'm going to go, well, he's been killing coyotes. He's been doing it for a year or two. I'm going to go with him. Well, this helps open up your eyes to, there's other ways of doing stuff and to make it your own.
Well, here's what people don't understand. I think there's a grass is greener on the other side mentality a lot in coyote hunting. Like guys that grow up in Missouri or Indiana or Georgia or back east, they see Western coyote hunting, right? Western coyote, the thing you got to think about filming Western coyote stuff is, when you're filming, you want some visibility, right? You want to be able to see the coyotes, right? But when we go to, I've been all over the country hunting coyotes, not a ton east of the Mississippi, but I've been to Illinois, I've been to Georgia, been to Wisconsin. What I've noticed is it's the land's really the same. And I think people don't, I mean, what is the most different land is out west, honestly. There is way different types of land and terrain out west than you'll ever find throughout the Midwest and the East. I mean, predominantly, when I go to East Kansas and hunt with Rick, it's dirt roads every mile. It's a mixture of ag and timber, which is what?
Right.
Indiana,
What we
right?
have. Yeah,
Indiana, I've been up in Wisconsin, same thing. There's just a little more roll, there's a little more hill stuff. Same in Missouri, it's the same down in through Arkansas, Louisiana. I've been out in Tennessee, it looks the same. Obviously, you get into some more mountains and more blocks of timber and less ag as you roll down through that southeast. You get up into the northeast, you get bigger blocks of timber, not as much ag. You get some mountains rolling there, but it's timber and ag, man. That's what it is. Some roll. And so the main difference to guys is, yeah, do you have a 14,000 acre cattle ranch? No, you don't. That's just what the lay of the land is out here. Do you have a 50,000 acre chunk of BLM to go hunt like in Arizona? No, you don't. You're taking small chunks of land. But like I said, most of those guys that say, well, that'll never work out here, trust me, you've never been out west. Most of them never have to hunt out west to see what that's like. But that's what I really talk about. I talk about the concepts. I've had guys in my in-person coyote schools. I've had guys from like 34 different states come to my in-person coyote schools from all over the country. Right now, I think I have members from 39 different states, maybe 40 now, that are members of the coyote school, right? If it's taught in the right way, it applies everywhere. You have to have an open mind to say, okay, yeah, when I'm watching a video or I'm watching this, yeah, it's not timber, but I use terms like cover, visibility. They're synonymous wherever you're at. It's just my cover is a little bit different than your cover. Or where I'm hunting here, the cover is a little bit different. The visibility here might be because of a hill. Visibility there might be because of timber or corn stalks or tall grass or whatever it may be. But those are common terms that we use and we talk about. And like I said, it all boils back down to giving you understanding that core, the fundamentals of what we're doing, because most guys that hunt coyotes never even I know a lot of good coyote hunters that get good by repetition, right? They go to the same spots and they always have, and they go to their and they always kind of know where the coyotes are going to come from. They always know where they can park the truck and where they can sit and where they can see, and they go back to those same spots year after year and they consistently kill coyotes and they've built up the land access. But you take a lot of those guys and you send them somewhere new, different terrain, different whatever, and they kind of scratch their head and like, damn, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't understand. You throw a different wind, hell, and sometimes it just takes a different wind direction, and guys are freaking out because they're like, oh my god, it's an east wind. I'm like, so concepts the same. We just got to figure it out with an east wind, right? And so it's little things like that. So that's the whole goal of the course is to, hey, no matter where you live, I don't care if it's North Carolina, West Virginia, Indiana, Michigan, Arizona, wherever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I personally feel that one of the major difference that I've ever really noticed from when I've been, I've hunted in eastern Kansas and stuff. And for one thing I noticed, like to those, even, getting through central Illinois, what's different than more where I'm at in our area is just the people, the houses. You just got to throw that one more thing into the game to where it's like, okay, I try to be respectful of like, and knowing where all the house dogs are, it seems like anymore, everybody's got a damn yapping dog.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how about I want to piss that house off with me over here squealing?
Yeah.
But that, other than that, to me, it seems like a lot of the concepts are the same. That's just, I fight a lot of residential houses, but to where it seems like, you get more out west, you don't really have the population of people that like I have here. But other than that, it's pretty much about the same. Like you got to get in without them seeing you, and you got to set up without them smelling you.
We got beat, Dustin Patterson and I got beaten worlds one year by a couple brothers, and they hunted in the suburbs of Phoenix. I mean, they were shot. They were like, you could see houses, you could see it. They were shotgunning coyotes right behind neighborhoods. And there was a pile of coyotes in there, right? And that was out the most out west you could be. They could have been 10 miles from there, not even been close to a house. But so they took that same concept and said, all right, coyotes are associate with people. They're right in the mix there because they don't get messed with as much. They don't get hunted right there because the average coyote hunter is like, damn, I don't know if I want to go hunt right there by those houses, even though they're perfectly legal within the restrictions of, some states will say you can't shoot within 400 feet of, a dwelling and all that kind of stuff, right? And then on top of that, they're like, we're just going to shoot shotguns, so we don't have to worry about bullets ricocheting and that kind of stuff. And yeah, they want it, doing that kind of stuff. So Yeah, so it's no matter how deep you want to dive into it, man. That's really what it comes down to.
Right. Yeah. And that's, like I said, to me, I
Well, the cool
think,
part here's another cool thing about the classes. It's like there's lots of Facebook communities out there and things like that, right? But everybody has access to that. I think this I've always been part of the learning part of this, right? The guys come out to my school, and that's as a member of this class, you know, you're not just some random Facebook profile that can comment and say anything they want, right? You've already invested the money. You said, okay, yeah, I want to get better at coyote hunting. So we're starting to build a community of like-minded coyote hunters that are really wanting to learn and get better at what we're doing. It's not just about passion and talking about this product versus this. It's not nothing about that, right? And I think to me, that's what's cool. I do as part of a member, you get access once a month. I jump on a live Zoom call with any member that wants to jump on. And we, just like you and me talking right here, and members can get on there. They can ask questions. We have conversations about different things. And basically, you're getting access to pick my brain, bounce ideas off other guys in the class, whatnot. We'll probably start some sort of forum on there at some point. Um, where members can, communicate other than always wanting, communicate with me on there. So yeah, it's a cool concept. And like I said, anybody listening, I'd say, read through some of the reviews on there. It's not I think a lot of guys think it's like a 15-minute YouTube video on how to kill coyotes. You know, I mean, it is a little over 8 hours of instructional videos, broke like 60 some videos broken down in a crazy easy to follow format. You can watch videos as you go. It keeps track of your progress. If you want to sit on there tonight and watch 30 minutes of stuff, and then tomorrow night, next night, you jump on there. It keeps track. You can always come back and rewatch videos. Every video has a comment section. I'm the only one that can respond to it though. So if you have a specific question, you can type it on there. I get on and answer it, and that stays there. That archives it. So as you are a new member, you can watch that video and you can read the comments. And there's obviously more conversation about that. So it'll just be continuing to build with just the most massive amount of coyote hunting information that you can find anywhere by far. Um, but like I said, it's not for everybody. It's for the guys that are wanting to really get good at this and have figured it out that hey, I just don't have the time to put in to get really, really good at this. And it's worth $400 to figure it out.
well, that's worth, I mean, what you just described there is well worth the $400 to be able to just, like you said, get on here and pick your brain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's well worth it to me. That's worth it. I mean, I really don't care. That's part of the reason why I do this podcast, or I started this, is just to talk to other guys about what they're doing, what they're seeing. You could pick up on anything at any given time. I mean, I could go out calling this evening and be like, oh man, we talked about this the other day or whatever, and try it.
Well, then those guys that specifically are from, like, let's say you're from West Virginia, and maybe you can't quite figure out the way I describe and the way I talk to kind of, put it to use exactly where you're at, right? We jump on one of those and you say, hey, Jeff, I watched a couple of your videos on, whatever it was. I just can't quite figure it out. All right, well, let's talk it through, man. So he can kind of talk it through, bounce ideas off of me, and then I can specifically talk about his specific property that he's trying to hunt or wants to hunt. Yeah, that's huge, right? It's huge. I mean, guys have access to a lot of different people nowadays with Instagram and social media and stuff like that. But honestly, you know, I mean, I get hit up with a lot of messages all the time, and I respond to them all. I can't type out like 5 paragraph answers to guys. I think a lot of guys think, "Hey, what sounds are working right now?" Okay, the one the coyote came running into. That's usually what I tell them. But I can't. There's a lot that go into what I'm decide. That deciding factor. So it's like, here you go, guys. I know you can get free information, or you think you're getting good free information, but you're usually probably not. Anybody that responds to your answer is probably just being nice, being cool. They're probably giving you some generic information. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. So,
Right. And but a lot of times it is hard when somebody asks you, you know, like what, it's breeding season, what sequences. It's like, man, that's such an open ended, because it's like, well, this is kind of in my head what I'd like to do, but I tell you that, then I go out there 2 stands later, I'm doing something completely different,
Yeah.
because that's
Oh yeah.
what the situation of my gut at the time's calling for. So it is hard to really get into depth on that, but at the same
Yeah.
time,
Bottom line, I think you're always going to have guys that just want to. They think there's an easy answer and it's easy access, right? It takes them what 10 seconds to type that out on their phone and hit send. Zero, you know, investment, right? To send that out on their part. So it's super easy. It's easy for them to do it. And if you respond, they may get some information. I don't necessarily know if those are the type of guys that are probably looking to invest money into their learning. But I do, from the success we've had on the website so far, hands down, there are lots of guys out there that understand the benefit to having access to all this and that are wanting to get better and are loving the opportunity that they can get access to all this stuff that nobody has ever had in the past.
yeah, because when I first heard you talk about it, and I remember thinking to myself, like, man, there's never really heard of anything like this, like an actual, an online, basically, I mean, it's a class, it's what it is, but with
Yeah,
all the content. Now, I remember watching your podcast you did, was it early fall or whatever over it,
yeah.
and thinking when you went into detail about everything that's in that, I was just mind blowing. Like, this dude's giving out
It's,
everything.
it's everything, man. Like I said, I've never been. Like I said, and I think of things a lot. I guarantee you, even if you kill a lot of coyotes, there will be stuff in that school that you will talk. I'll discuss, and you'll be like, "Holy shit!" I've I've kind of maybe done that, but I've never thought about it. Like, I've never thought about why I do what I do or why I do it this way. Um, that's just the way I am, man. That's the way I think that's what's maybe set me apart a little bit in the coyote world is just I've always looked at things just a little bit different. And for me to share it with you and everybody else as part of the class, and I think it's cool. I mean, like I said, you guys are, there's nothing better when I see guys be like, oh man, I've killed my first triple, or, you know, I'd never been able to kill more than 2 coyotes a day. And I went out, for my first time and we killed 4 in the morning, or finally hit that elusive, 1% club, some shit I made up, the 1% club, right? 10 coyotes in a day. We finally hit that finally, and those guys are like, man, all right, it's starting to click a little bit now and it's starting to make sense. And I'm like, heck yeah, man. Because for me, ultimately, I mean, I love what I experience calling coyotes is, I mean, I love nothing more than that, right? And I've always kind of I want everybody to experience that, right? Like, I mean, killing 19 coyotes in a day kind of stuff, 10 coyote, whatever it may be, man. It's just unbelievable when everything lines up and happens like that. And if everybody could experience that, that's my goal, man.
Well, it's such and on top of that, it's also such a humbling process, but that's what I think makes it so rewarding when you do go out there and you call, and kill 8, 10, 12 coyotes in a day, or you get that double on a stand.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so rewarding, is you remembering the 2 or 3 or 4 dry stands you made before then and all the miles you put in. And man, when it does
Yeah.
come together, it's unreal. It's
Yep. Yeah. I tell people that all the time. I mean, yeah, I have big days, but I have way more days where just 1, 2, 3, 4 coyote days, man. And you're busting your ass. You're working, you're working, you're working, you're working, and you got to stay off. You may have 6, 8, 9, 10 blank stands in a row, and then you keep doing everything right. It's just, there's just no coyotes there. The coyotes that are there just aren't coming to the call for whatever reason, right? And so you just keep doing what you're doing. And then the days when it finally all lines up, you know, then you're doing everything right. Then you're being rewarded all day long, So yeah, that's what it's about.
yeah, paying your dues, and then
That's
because
right.
nobody gets to see that. That's
No,
like in your position, with the last stand and everything you do is, guys are just seeing that 12, 15, 20 minute video. of you killing 6, 8, 10 coyotes. They're not seeing the amount of hours and miles and time traveled to get to that point, to be
Yeah, and
able
I
to.
think that's always been a weird thing. There's always been this misconception out there, I think, in the predator filming world that they don't want to show that, right? Failure's part of it, man. For me, like you're gonna fail way more stands. And when I mean fail, I'm not talking about like messing up coyotes and that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about failure as far as they're just you made an educated guess on where you're gonna set up. You made an educated guess on how long you're gonna sit there. Nothing showed up. All right. To me, that yes, that is a failure. You didn't kill anything, but guess what? It's on to the next one, right? And I think that's important to show that. We've always tried to do that on the last stand. And, me talking about, hey, we made 5 blank stands in a row, man. It's 10:30. We're still grinding away. And then boom, all of a sudden we get one. And then, hey, we're back on a dry streak. We're still covering ground. We're still trying to carpet bomb this area, whatever we're doing. But we made 4 more dry stands in a row, but we're still covering ground. Boom, okay, we got one. So yeah, I mean, we should. That's what you've always got with the last stand is the good and the bad and everything in between. There's been episodes where we killed 2, 3 coyotes, 1 coyote. I mean, and there's been episodes where we killed 19. So you get to see it all. But I think that's important for guys that are getting into coyote hunting to understand that it's going to have its challenges. You're going to have your struggles. But what you're trying to do is do everything that you can control the right way. And there's a lot of stuff in coyote hunting you have zero control over. Control what you can control. And then when you do finally get set up and the coyote comes in, we kill the coyote. We don't dick it up because we're getting lazy and we're starting to do things half-assed because we made 4 blank stands in a row and we weren't set up right. No, stay locked in, keep doing it right. When the coyote comes in, you kill it because you might only get 2 opportunities today or this morning or tonight. Well, let's capitalize on them both. So,
Right. And I know for me, that was always a big thing is when I finally got to a point to where I started realizing to where, man, if I went out and hunted all night or hunted all day and I didn't kill anything, I was confidence, I think is the big thing is I was confident enough at the end of the day to be like, well, it really wasn't, it's either the coyotes weren't there. I just happened to make poor choices everywhere I made a stand, or they just, for some reason, they're coyotes, right? They don't always respond.
yeah.
Like you don't know what's tripping that trigger that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
To finally get to that point, to have the confidence to be like, okay, it's just tomorrow's the next day, tomorrow's a whole new day. Cause you could go out tomorrow and have the best night or the best stands of your life. And then the next day, right, nothing. And then you could be like everybody else and want to blame the moon or the pressure. And I don't think I went down that rabbit hole. I used to keep track of everything, thinking I could, I'm gonna be the guy to figure this out. And then no, all it did was humble me. That's all it did. I don't think there's a recipe to it. It's just they're coming or they're not.
Yeah, you never know. It's all about efficiency on stand, right? I think I talk about this a lot in the school of like control what you can control. We don't know exactly what scenario is going to unfold out there. We don't know exactly what type of coyotes out there, right? So as I'm sitting on stand, going through sounds, time on stand, it's all revolved around. I'm going to try to cover as many of those scenarios as I possibly can think of. And what is it, a aggressive coyote? Is it non aggressive coyote? Is it whatever it may be? And you try to account for all those situations and different coyotes that may be out there. There may not be a coyote at all, but you account for that. And that's all you can do. And yeah, you have the confidence to move on and say, all right, doesn't matter. Let's go. We got more spots. We've done our homework. We got plenty of land access. We got, time to cover ground and find coyotes because there might not have been a callable coyote on this stand, but right down the road on the next spot, guess what? There very well could be. So let's keep moving. Let's keep it going. And let's find the coyotes we can call in. So.
Right. Well, that's a bunch of good information. I sure appreciate it.
Heck yeah.
I really
do. I invite anybody that wants to check out the website, man. I think it's it's the first year membership is $400. That gets you access to everything. The idea is that we keep a community together. So, you also get partnership discounts. I got 5 or 6 different partners that are on there. So you get exclusive discount codes. For some predator hunting products, on there, which is that alone would pay for your $400 class if you we're looking at it that way. Rick You get 10 exclusive sounds that Rick made me for members, which is another little just side benefit for guys that are looking for something a little different. And then after that, like I said, every year, it's going to be a $99 renewal fee. That'll still keep you access to all the new information. We'll be constantly putting on a new exclusive Last Stand episodes on there. Like just recently, here coming up, my Alberta wolf hunt is going to be on the website, so it'll be for members only. I was up filming in Wisconsin. We did some exclusive episodes just for the website, especially the eastern kind of stuff. Wanted to do some stuff on that, but we'll be filming hunts for that, and then those monthly, live Zoom Q&A sessions. You still get access to all that. So yeah, that's the goal, man. Just to continue to build a group of coyote hunters, a community that's all about learning and pushing the boundaries and seeing how much better and more efficient we can get at killing coyotes.
What are the websites you can go check that out at? How I can
Let's go to coyoteclass.com. That's the easiest one. That'll take you right to the main page. It'll scroll down through. It'll give you all the information. You can read the reviews. And then right there at the bottom, if you decide you want to jump on board, you just hit the sign up button. It'll take you right through. Then you'll have instant access to everything. So,
and that's a deal too. I mean, I forgot about, like, it's only $400 at one time, and it's only $100 a year. And I don't say, I mean, $100 is a lot of money. I'm not saying that lightly, but you only pay $100 a year after to have all those benefits. Like,
yeah,
that's huge.
I think it's pretty cool, man. Yeah, so I've had several guys that said it's too much, but I don't know. Who knows? But if you probably took a look at all you have invested into coyote hunting, your equipment's only going to take you so far, right? You can buy the best in the world, but that they offer, the best e-call, the best thermal, the best everything. But if you don't understand how to get coyotes in front of it, it doesn't do you any good. So
exactly. Well, once again, I sure appreciate you coming on, taking the time.
You bet, man. It's been fun.
Everybody go check out Geoff's website. The link's down in the description below. Get out, shoot your guns, make sure you're shooting straight. See ya.